What? Y'all ain't heard a word I said. What up, though? Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unfiltered on Notoriously Opinionated. It's your man that goes by many names and monikers. I'm your host, Scrap the Film Guru, because you didn't hear me the first time I said it, you know, which is crazy. That's crazy work, you know. That's super crazy work that I didn't see the big X on my audio button. But it's cool. That's the beauty of live TV. All right. Uh, so as I say again, I'm a Libra. I got pet peeves, right? And one of my pet peeves is when people misuse words, right? When people misuse words. Um, More specifically, when people misuse what's called adverbs of frequency, right? But I'm gonna get to that. So like one of my main pet peeves is when people say uh, you can't do that. So if somebody says, you know, um, so say somebody says something crazy to me, right? And I immediately in the moment, you know, brush it off, but it stays with me and just eats at my, you know what I'm saying? It just eats at my soul, you know. And I decide, you know what, tomorrow I'm gonna punch him in the mouth. I'm just gonna knock him out real quick. And I happen to say this out loud, you know, the thoughts in my head, you know, that brain mouth thing that I constantly talk about, uh, is severed, you know, and you know, it comes up my mouth. I'm gonna go punch him in the mouth tomorrow. And if somebody says you can't do that, yeah, I actually can. Yes, sir. I actually can. I absolutely am physically capable of going in and punching this person in the mouth. I absolutely can. What you mean to say is you shouldn't do that. So you say I can't when I physically can. When you say I shouldn't, that okay, I may not should go in and do this, but I absolutely can. When people say, "Man, you always talking trash," no, I'm not. I don't always talk trash. I might talk trash a lot, but I don't always talk trash. Man, you don't never show me no appreciation. Never, never. See, these are the adverbs of frequency that I was talking about, right? To say to somebody always or never does a thing, that somebody can't do a thing that they are fully capable and able bodied enough to do, irritates me, right? When you use words correctly. And we're going to talk about this a little more a little later because um, one of the things that I believe we really need to get a hold of is uh, really realizing what we say and how the words that we use have more than just meaning, they have power. That's why a lot of rosters rephrase and reframe and words, right? And it may sound strange to you, but to those that can see, it makes perfect sense, and I understand clearly why they're doing it. All right. Um, Next question. Um, what um do you think that you would do now? Black people especially, we've talked about this over the years, right? Like what you would do if um there was ever the hint, mention, or um, threat that slavery could be implemented. If you've been paying attention to politics, you may have gotten a glimpse. And the question a lot of people have been asking, is it possible for slavery to get put on the books? Well, it was. Slavery was put on the books in 2022. We're going to talk about it, but it ain't what you think. Um, because I am firmly, firmly in agreement with slavery being put on the books to be revoted on and for an amendment to the Constitution. Firmly in favor. I know exactly what I'm saying. You will too, a little later. um, and lastly, those of you who are not, and I said this on Facebook a little bit earlier, those of you who are not familiar with the Jordan Hill case, you will be, and it just to me, from my perspective and in my opinion, uh, just further solidifies how black and brown kids are viewed differently and treated differently than white kids in this nation. And that's just what it is. Uh, don't seem all shocked and appalled and all filled and whatnot. It is what it is, and it's been like that since forever. You see what I'm saying? You see what I did there? It's been like that since forever. No, it hasn't. It hasn't been like that since forever. It's been like that for quite some time, though. We're going to talk about all that and more tonight on Notoriously Opinionated. Let's go. All right. I am waiting on my guest or guests to arrive. Um, However, not gonna wait for long. You dig? Because I am firmly prepared to rock this show by myself. All right. Now, first off, um, words have power, and so um, for a long time, people that would be so-called in the know would not say the word understand, right? Uh, you'll hear a lot of rosters say, "You overstand me, you overstand me," right? Because understand is to, in relevance to just the saying of the word, to stand under, to understand, to stand under, which means to be beneath a thing and look up at the one standing or the thing standing. And how good of a perspective can you have if you have an understanding, right? So they say overstanding, overstanding. Me have an overstanding, you know, me no understand. Me no understand. Me have an overstanding. You hear me? So they'll say overstanding, because if you have an overstanding, then you're standing over the thing that you're trying to comprehend. And if you're trying to comprehend something and you're standing over it, then you can have a vista view of what's going on. You know, I've come to an even different view since then. It's better to have an overstanding than an understanding, but I believe it's better to have an understanding than an overstanding or an understanding. And the inner standing, to me, comes from the creator, right? And understanding is the closest comprehension that I can come to the creator's understanding, right? Here's why I say that. If I am a son of God, and uh and the creator put into me all of the power, you know, in relegated form of the universe, right? Then I have the wisdom inside of me somewhere untapped. The wisdom is inside of me somewhere untapped, you know. And yes, we use more than 10% of our brains. However, uh, any of you that have never, it's a movie called, why can I never remember this movie when I'm trying to use it as an example? Limitless. That's the name of it. Limitless. There's a movie called Limitless. If you've never seen Limitless, check it out. Right. But the whole premise of Limitless is it's a guy down on his luck. He a bum. He ain't really doing nothing. Lost his girl. Blase, blase. Takes this pill and opens up 100% of his mental capacity. My man is on it. You feel me? My man is on it. Now, even though I told you that part of the movie, it's still not gonna spoil it for you. It's still a fantastic movie, even though you know that. I mean, it's basically me giving you the trailer. You feel me? So in Limitless, he takes this pill, it opens up 100% of his mind, right? And in doing that, he's able to figure out all these different things. You know what I'm saying? Like his communication with women just exponentially increases. His comprehension of business and numbers and this and that. I mean, he just has an inner standing. All of that he ended up doing was already inside of him, right? It just had to be brought out, right? It just had to be brought out. I have never been uh of the mindset that uh that we are blank slates, you know, uh because that it's a word, tubula rasa or something like that. That we are blank slates at birth. Mm-mm. I believe all of the information of the universe is inside of us, and we just constantly unlock it over the course of our lifetime. Some unlock it faster, some unlock it slower, but we're unlocking it as we go through life. And another reason why I say that everything is in us is simply because of the central nervous system. I mean, like, there are things like all the words that are coming out of my mouth are coming from my brain. My brain is telling my mouth, say these words in this sequence and using this syntax, right? But I am not, and I'm doing it consciously, you know, I am consciously configuring these words based off of books that I've read over the years and and things of that nature, and words that I've learned and how to use them and the correct way to use them, and then sometimes the incorrect way to use them to make a point. But here's the thing, I'm not telling my central nervous system to work. I'm not I'm not consciously telling my heart to beat. I'm not telling my blood to flow. I'm not doing any of that consciously. But my internal intelligence is telling my body everything that it needs to do. And all of this, I believe, comes from the creator. I don't know why I keep pointing up like the creator's not there, but you know what I'm saying? It's so that's just um that is um a life of training, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody points up in relation to God. What? You can point up, out, sideways, down. Just like it's like if you point down and refer to the creator, it's like, oh, that's blasphemy. The devil is down. Really? Stop. Anyway, creators everywhere, everything. So you can point anywhere. So here's the thing. Um, um, I believe in the understanding of a thing because I believe the creator put everything inside of us, and thus, in order to truly tap into uh, your your comprehension of a thing, you need that understanding, right? And my understanding says this, that you have to use words properly. Now, it's one thing to use words like always and never and should versus can't. Uh, man, you can't slap him in the face. Bet I can. Bet I can. Should I slap him in the mouth? Probably not. You know, probably not. Unless it's self defense, and then even after I defend myself, I need to stop. You know, and it, I mean, despite popular opinion about me, right? If the people, male and female, that really, really know me, if they are honest and stop the shenanigans, right? I punch people enough times to prove my point. If it only takes one, I just one and done. If it takes more than one, it's what it is until you just stop and leave me alone. Notice I said leave me alone because I'm not bothering you. 9 times out of 10, if I've had to put my hands on somebody over the years, 98% of the time, it was self defense. There was that too. Anywho, what's up, little Joe? What's up, man? Uh, if I'm a child of God, eventually I will grow into my. You know what? I'm not about to keep reading that. Let's go. I'm a child of God. Eventually I will grow into my godlike nature, just to exact the mundo. Exactly. If you are, well, it's not an if. Everybody is a child of God. You may not want to admit it, but everybody's a child of the Creator. You know what I'm saying? And this has no religious connotations. I'm just talking about the Creator of the universe. You know, whatever you choose to call it. You know, notice I said it. That's another pet peeve of mine for another show. I'm not doing that today, right? I'm not doing uh the he, she, it. Yeah, I'm not doing God today. I will one day, just not today. But the thing is, oh yeah, that's what's up. Hey, hey, what's up, big bro? Big Rock, what it do? Uh, Lil Joe, just hit me up, man. I know you still got my I know you still got my info. Uh, yeah, just hit me up, bro. Uh, but yeah, so to the pet peeve, right? To say, man, you always talking trash. No, I don't. You know, man, you never show nobody no appreciation. Never, never. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't always or never do nothing. You know what I'm saying? And I said that to somebody once, and they was like, "We always breathing." No, we not. You know what I'm saying? No, we not. We not always breathing. You know? No, we not. We don't always or never do nothing. You know, there is a time that whatever it is that you think you do routinely, you don't do if it's only for a moment, right? But we'll say that. We'll say, man, you always this or you never that. My thing is, my thing now, that's really a pet peeve of mine also, but just as uh synonymous of a pet peeve of mine is saying what I can't do when you really mean to say I shouldn't do it. You know, you can't do this to this person. You can't do that. Yes, I can. I may not should, but I promise you I can. Right? So it's just using the right words. Now, talking about using the right words. The reason why this is so important is because there is a such thing as incantations, right? And you quite literally speak what you're saying into existence. So for all you pessimistic people, you wonder why your ass depressed all the time. This is why. This is why you're depressed all the time. Because the way that your brain works and the words that come out of your mouth are negative most of the time, a lot of the time. And so you are speaking into existence that which you say. So if that which you say is constantly negative, constantly pessimistic, constantly down, it should not be a wonder as to why you always seem to have bad luck. You quite literally brought it on yourself. Period, point blank. You know, so if a lot of people could just change the way that they speak, which means changing the way that you have interpreted the world, then you could potentially get a lot further. You know what I'm saying? So it's like um people people will wish people will say, man, I wish I didn't have so many problems. No, no, you shouldn't hope or wish for less problems. Hope and wish for the wisdom to solve all of them. You know, uh, don't don't wish for um, man, I wish I didn't have so many bills. No, it's not. It's not the bills that's the problem. It's the lack of finances to pay them. So so wish for more skill to make more money, or not even the money to go a little deeper. Wish for the skill to develop more resources to acquire more money or resources. Because a lot of times you don't need money, you really need just resources. You know, so boom. You don't need less bills. You need more skill, more more resources, more money. That's what you need. Um, and and the thing about and so just real quick on the money thing, um, a lot of times you might find yourself working so hard at your job that you find yourself with not enough time to work on yourself. Work on you harder than you work on any job, you know, because you're only working this job a certain number of hours every day, but you can't leave you. You can't leave you. You are the only thing you can't outrun. You can't run away from you. So there that is. All right. So real quick. Um when you get a chance, and I'll go more into detail next week, but hit the chat. Uh define these three um, instances: past, present, future. Right? If you Google it, past is defined as a time or period before speaking or writing. A time or period before speaking or writing. Hold on to that. Future is a time yet to come, but it's the time or period following a moment of speaking or writing. And then the present is now existing or in progress. So I have pondered these three instances for decades. I've pondered these three instances for decades. And I have come up with, now I'm not saying that there isn't a scientist somewhere who has come up with this. I've just never heard it, you know, but it's what I call the ever present now, because every moment that is already the past, and every moment that is already the future. And so it's kind of like the past, present, and future always seems to be fusing, or tends to be fusing. I don't want to use always. Tends to be, well, no, in this instance, always may be accurate, but it tends to be fusing at like microseconds that I can't even snap. You know what I'm saying? I can't even snap to it fast enough. You know, I can't snap fast enough for it to be that that micro instant between now, what's past, and the future, because they all just seem to coagulate within a fragment of a second. You know. So I just start calling it the ever present now. I don't know. I don't know what's up with the past. I don't know what's up with the future. I don't know what's up with right now. I don't even know if it is right now, because it just seems to be a constant flow of past and future and past. You know, because as soon as you think about what's to come, it is, and as soon as you think about what was, it's gone. So you know, that's kind of where I'm at with that. Um, um, Now that's all I have to say about that. Uh, so slavery. First off, with Trump talking about, with Trump talking about, put like all of the rhetoric that he's talking about with these farmers and putting them in charge of these migrant workers and having them look. If you look into that, I swear and it's not just me. I knew I wasn't the only one that heard what I was hearing, because I'm looking. I was like, am am I hearing what I'm hearing? Is this dude? So keep up. You know, if you black, you probably already with me. You know, uh, I don't mean Oreo black. I mean like you. You know what I mean? Like solid. Uh, and those of you that wasn't born in the, not even born, but that wasn't, those of you that are not from Generation X, let me explain what an Oreo is. An Oreo is somebody that's black on the outside and white on the inside. Uh, so you know, they an Oreo is someone here. You tell me what a shot. There you have it. So here's the thing. Uh, when you have these people who you're saying are going to be in charge of these people, and these people must do what these people say, or these people with the three letters on their chest are going to come and take you. Yeah, back in the day, they was called slave catchers. And coincidentally, slave catchers became the police department. Go figure. You know, ICE is in this reference the slave catcher of the migrant workers who are working for these farmers, because 85% of the agricultural workforce are migrants. They do not they do not have papers. They do not they are not green card citizens of this nation, right? They are not here legally. Send them all back where they came from and see what happens to the agriculture of this nation. Do it. I dare you. Because the same thing gonna happen as what happened when the 13th Amendment was enacted, right? When the 13th Amendment was enacted, white folks around the nation, Texas especially, were pissed the hell off. Why? Because now you got to pick your own damn cotton. And every day since then, black people have been called lazy. How the hell somebody that worked harder than you've ever worked in your life is now deemed lazy? Get out of here. Anyway, so here's the thing. Um, that's what they're doing to these migrant workers, and to me, that sounds like slavery. That's just me. That's my notorious opinion. You can take it or leave it, but that's how I see it. You know, just the framing of the words sounds really slavish. And leave it to Trump to be the one that tries to pull something like that off, right? Leave it to Trump to be the one that says, leave it to the president that's trying to be the president forever. He's trying to be, uh, uh, how can you mash up Trump and Putin? He's trying to be trooping. He's trying to be trooping. You know what I'm saying? He is trying to have what him and Medvedev have, what Vladimir Putin and Medvedev have, right? What they call it, a a a ten democracy. It's not a democracy; it's a ten democracy, right? And what is a tan democracy? I'm so glad you asked. A tan democracy is when you have somebody that is uh, up there. So Vladimir Putin is uh, vastly popular for being vastly feared, right? And so since everybody is afraid of, not everybody, since a lot of people are afraid of Vladimir Putin and the power that he wields, being former KGB and ruthless, uh, they tend to do what he says, right? People are afraid of Trump. People in office are afraid of Trump in the exact same way, right? But let's face it, man, this dude being president is a disaster on wheels, on fire, headed to hell fast. Anyway, uh, but if you don't believe that, um, if you just listen to the rhetoric, like, it is becoming more and more evident in this second and could be final term, but not clear cut final term, uh, that he does not like black people. I'm sorry. He does not like poor black people. You know what I'm saying? Because I stand on what I've said about Trump in the past. Trump is not a primary racist, but he is a secondary racist. Trump is a primary classist. If you're not in his class, he really don't mess with you. Which is, I don't understand why you poor white folk ride with Trump the way that you do. He don't care about you. He don't. He does not understand. Why you think this multimillionaire understands the plight of a poor white person in the trailer park? I have no idea. None whatsoever. I am flabbergasted, mind boggled, and completely annoyed and frustrated by the notion that you think that this dude understands you, cares about you. I don't. I don't understand it. It don't make no sense to me. Uh, but but he is, if he could, he would try to re-implement slavery if he thought he could pull it off, but he can't. Uh, I, on the other hand, just on the topic of slavery, want slavery back on the books to be voted on again. I want slavery. I want the 13th Amendment amended. Absolutely. I want the 13th Amendment amended. And in 2022, they actually had slavery on the books to be amended. Now, here's how and here's why. Here's how and here's why. They're still a part of the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment did not abolish slavery. It did not. The 13th Amendment abolished chattel slavery, but it didn't abolish all slavery. If you are found guilty of committing a crime and you are sentenced to a Department of Corrections or a prison or any type of penitentiary situation or setting, you are institutionally in slavery. So everybody that's locked up nationwide in the United States are slaves, according to the Constitution. That is what I want back on the books. That part of slavery needs to go back on the books because that says that you can treat these people as inhumane as you possibly can get away with constitutionally because they are slaves. They lose their rights. If you have a certain amount of time as a prisoner, you don't have rights. You have basic, and when I say basic, I mean basic human rights. And that's it. Other than that, you have no rights. It is very difficult to get a fair shake once you've been incarcerated, with the 13th Amendment being how it is to this day, with there still being the slavery amendment attached to that 13th Amendment, you know. And until that part is taken out, I don't think the 13th Amendment is complete because you did not abolish all slavery. What you did was create another avenue after slavery for black and brown men, for people of color to still be placed in slavery. You just took them out of the cotton fields without shackles and put them on chain gangs with them. That's all you did, you know. Uh, hey, bro, you silly. Hey, man, you silly. He said, "No way, let him stay." Imagine not being able to indulge in carne asada tacos and such beautiful things we all indulge in from their culture. Hey, man, listen, I wouldn't know what to do. I'm keeping the buck with you. They got these things called burrito tacos. If you've never had a burrito taco, next time you go to a Mexican restaurant, see if they got burrito tacos. It's one of the most delicious things you'll ever taste. I don't know what I would do if they sent all of the illegal essays somewhere else and I couldn't have burrito tacos, because in most of these places, you might got two people that speak English. The rest of them no habla inglés. The rest of them is no habla inglés. Trust, you know. But all kidding aside, like for real, like the agricultural uh like system in place right now, would plummet if you didn't have migrant workers working those fields. Come on, man. Y'all can't live without them migrant workers. Uh, yeah, nah, it was more than just Nebraska though. It was I want to say it was because it was 5 states that voted on it. It was like Mississippi, Nebraska, Virginia, um, Mississippi, Nebraska, Virginia, one of them, no, Vermont. Vermont was one of them. Vermont, Nebraska, Virginia, Mississippi, and it was one more, right? And two of those 5 states voted to amend the state constitution, right? And took slavery all the way off of it, to where if you're incarcerated, you're not deemed a slave. So that was dope. And that's what I'm talking about. I want slavery back on the ballot to be voted on and amended to where the 13th Amendment just abolishes slavery across the board, period. You know, there is an abolition of slavery in the United States, period. Not there's an abolition of slavery in the United States except for those who have been prosecuted and found guilty of a crime. No, that's not true abolition. You just shifted the goalpost. That's all you did. All right. So there that but at the same time, the question about Trump has come up to say he's been talking a lot and joking a lot about not leaving office and still being here for a third term or even forever. You know what I'm saying? Like his idol Vladimir Putin. You know what I'm saying? Like Vladimir Putin had the Constitution of Russia changed because it said the same thing as the Constitution of the United States, that you served your couple of terms and then you bounce. You walk away like Humphrey Bogart in Casablanca. Just walk off in the sunset. You know, you got your 2 terms, bounce. You know, I could have swore that's what happened in Hamilton. Like I've seen Hamilton a few times, and that's what he's like. See what it's like. Say goodbye. You know, that's what George Washington did. Teach them how to say goodbye. That's what happened in Hamilton. That's what happened. You know, so uh, but he's gonna try it. He's gonna try it. And the crazy thing is, and nobody really looked at it until he got to joking about it, because he's not joking. He does that. Like he throws things out there, just to test the water and see how people respond to it. If he were to say it, he's just checking everybody's temperature. But he's dead serious. He is going to try to run. Not no. I'm sorry. He's not going to try to run for a third term because he cannot. That's part of the Constitution. But the Constitution says that you cannot be elected into the presidency after your second term. It don't say nothing about remaining president or becoming president again after your second term. It don't say that. Loophole, but a loophole nonetheless, right? And Trump loves taking advantage of loopholes. Now, what are some of the ways that Trump actually could possibly pull off being president again past the second term? The term is called cronyism. He's got cronies. And again, how did Vladimir do this? Section 8, article, okay, of how to be a author. Yeah, how to be a authoritarian. It's right there. You get one of your cronies to run for president and you be his vice presidential uh nominee. You are on the ticket as vice president. But the Constitution says you can't do that. If you're not qualified to be president, you can't be vice president. Yeah, you can, because that's part of the interpretation, right? Trump can be on the ticket as the vice president with J.D. Vance as the presidential nominee for the GOP, right? Vance can become president, and then Trump can invoke the 25th Amendment and take over as president. Vance can become president and resign, and Trump can become president. There's a few ways that this fool could actually become president again and don't have to be elected. Now, are these stretches? Yes, they are stretches, but they are possibilities, because that's all the Constitution says. All the Constitution says is that you cannot be elected president more than 2 terms. But you absolutely, there's, possibilities and loopholes as to where you absolutely could be president for more than 2 terms. Those are 2 ways. And you don't have to be elected. Thank you. All right. Last but definitely, absolutely, positively, not least. I do not remember the day that this occurred, but there was a 10-year-old named Jordan Hill. Jordan Hill was riding his ATV when what's his name? Cody Rollinson. Cody Rollinson was high, and that's, I'm not just saying that, that's not a euphemism. Like, he was literally high, and struck this kid, unaliving him while he was riding his ATV. Fled the scene and then came back because during the collision, his rearview mirror came off, or his side view mirror came off. He went back to get his mirror and fled the scene again. Police arrest him. Now keep in mind, Jordan Hill, this young black 10-year-old who was minding his business, riding his little ATV, he's deceased, right? They charged this man with possession of marijuana and felony leaving the scene of an accident. Possession of marijuana, which would kind of support the claim of driving under the influence. While marijuana may be legal, you cannot operate a motor vehicle under the influence. Under the influence doesn't just mean alcohol. It means anything that could impair your judgment. You can get a DUI for over the counter. You can get a DUI for driving under the influence of a doctor prescribed drug. You can get a DUI for because it tells you, do not operate motor vehicles under this particular drug, right? And the doctor can absolutely have given you this drug. It was prescribed by your physician, and if you drive under the influence of this and you end up striking another vehicle, you are at fault, because it tells you very clearly, do not operate heavy machinery motor vehicles or anything other like while under the influence of this particular medication. And if you do it anyway and something tragic happens, you are at fault, right? So especially if you are high operating a motor vehicle and you strike and unalive another human being, you are at fault. Why was he only charged for um, possession of marijuana and felony leaving the scene of an accident? He was not charged for vehicular homicide, which is exactly, you are absolutely correct, eh? That is exactly what the crime would be. It would be vehicular homicide because you committed the act of homicide using a vehicle. Vehicular homicide. You caused the unaliving of somebody using a motor vehicle. Vehicular homicide. He has not been charged as of yet, you know. And all this happened in Mississippi, so that should tell y'all. Mississippi was one of those states, but that should tell y'all you need to know right there. It happened in Mississippi, so I mean, it just kind of is what it is at this point. But uh, when you get a chance, go look up and research the case of Jordan Hill, uh, the 10-year-old black kid who was struck while riding his ATV by Cody Rollinson, and it's gonna break your heart. Now, the thing about it, you have Jordan Hill who was killed by uh by Cody Rollinson, right? You have um you have you have Austin Metcalf that was unalived by Carmelo Anthony, and you have two totally different uh temperatures for these two crimes, right? Like, there's outright rage against Carmelo Anthony for the unaliving of Austin Metcalf. And I'm not saying that in that particular case, I'm not saying that because it's a tragedy, the way that happened was tragic. I don't care what color the child was. You know what I'm saying? They're both kids. And one child unalived another child, and that's tragic, right? And that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the national outrage over this. How while Austin Metcalf was unalived by Carmelo Anthony, Carmelo told him, "Leave me alone, or I'm gonna show you what's up." You know, there was the warning to stay away from me. And so even though he's 17, he still has the right to stand his ground, you know, if he's being attacked. He still if he's being threatened, he has the right to stand his ground, right? He has the right to stand his ground. And so right now, I'm just hoping that little brother gets a fair trial, right? That's all I'm hoping. I'm hoping that the little brother gets a fair trial. Now, when George Zimmerman said that he was standing his ground against Trayvon Martin, it was a whole different scenario, whole different story. You know, there is no outrage right now for Jordan Hill. There's no national outrage. There's outrage for Austin Metcalf. There eventually was outrage for Trayvon Martin. And yet Zimmerman pleads self-defense, standing his ground, gets found not guilty. Okay. You knew which one was what I was gonna say. Trayvon, Carmel. Which one you thought I was gonna say? All right, so that's all I'm saying. Like, The goalpost shifts in this nation depending on how you look. To me, that's how it seems. It seems like the goalpost shifts depending on what you look like. There's when Kyle Rittenhouse, remember when what state was it in? Was it Georgia? That Kyle Rittenhouse, the kid, he was 17 years old too. Kyle Rittenhouse was 17 years old. He came from 2 states away to come to this protest, and he was armed. And his parents gave him the gun, right? And he unalived 2 people during this protest. Claimed self-defense. Hold the phone. Hold the phone, shut the front door, and please, somebody explain this to me. You came from 2 states away, unalived 2 people, and claimed self-defense. Huh. But the whole nation, at least the translucent side of it, stood by that little cat. Stood by him. He's a patriot, and he stood his ground with his AK-47 or whatever he had. He had an automatic weapon. They stood by his side. And no. That's not the one that went to Burger King. You talking about Dylan Roof? Dylan Roof, and that was a whole different situation. Dylan Roof, don't get me started on Dylan Roof. Dylan Roof went into a church and killed 9 people inside of this church. That's not Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse was a 17-year-old kid that came from, I forget what state he came from, but he went to a protest and he came down there with his weapon, and ended up unaliving 2 people, But who you talking about? That's he shot up a church. Dylan Roof shot up the church. Kyle Rittenhouse was just in the street shooting people. Yeah, Kyle Rittenhouse was in the street shooting people. Dylan Roof went into a church that it's like, and it was premeditated because he had been watching the parishioners of this church for a cool little minute, and so when they saw him in there, they didn't think nothing of it, and he ended up. And one day when he went in, he killed him. Kyle Rittenhouse was coming to a protest, and when he pulled up to the protest, he caught himself getting scared for something. How you scared? You got an AK-47. You got a semi-automatic weapon. You talking about you scared? You can't, didn't nobody tell you to come down there? Didn't nobody tell you to go down to that protest? And didn't nobody tell you to go down there armed? So right. You got your sociopaths confused. Yeah, that's all. It happens. It happens at times. So the goalpost just changes. That's all I'm saying. Depending on who it is, And they took Dylan Roof to Burger King. That really happened. The police took him to Burger King. Insanity. All right. So that's it. So what have we learned today? We've learned that you need to use words more properly. Use them correctly. Use them in the way that they're supposed to be used and not the way that you want to use them. If you mean that a person should or shouldn't do a thing, don't say they can or can't do it, because they absolutely can show you that they can. It is absolutely possible for Trump to be in office after this term. It's just going to take some shenanigans for it to happen. And when you're talking about how certain youths are treated in this nation, the goalpost shifts. Right. All right. That's it for me. I'm gonna need everybody to tune in next week to Notoriously Opinionated. I'm uncensored, unscripted, unfiltered. I should have called the show I'm uncensored, unscripted, unfiltered, you know. But tune in next week. Same notorious time, same notorious station, 8 p.m. every Wednesday night. I've been your man, your host, Scrap the Film Guru. Check me out on all social media platforms. Scrap the Film Guru on TikTok. Scrap the Film Guru on Instagram. Scrap the Film Guru on Facebook. I don't remember what I am on. What's the one? Twitch. I don't know what I am on Twitch. And subscribe to the channel Breakout Media Group on YouTube. Right. So until next time, it's been real. It's been your man, Scrap the Film Guru. Peace. I'm out.